All right, well, listen, welcome everyone. We want to thank you guys for coming to our 1031 Exchange webinar. I'm Robert Hassler with Institutional 1031 Exchange, and we are doing this with USA Land Group. Today we have Todd Schweber, CEO of USA Land Group, and Connor Treborn, also with USA Land Group, to talk about some of these 1031 exchange options that we're here to go over with you today on the raw land and what they do best. So one of the things, just a little housekeeping before we start. Disclaimer here, one sec, that we're not giving it tax advice. We're not attorneys. Please consult your tax advisor or your attorneys for any of that, your tax advice, things like that. We're not here to give that out. We're just merely going over 1031 exchange process, and then USA Land Group on the logistics of potential replacement properties. Thank you. Again, my name's Robert Hassler. I've been in 1031s for, let's see, since 2003, both from the 1031 side and the banking side as well. Our company, 1031, Institutional 1031, we facilitate every type of exchange out there: reverse, forward exchanges, built-to-suit exchanges. We have a whole suite of products. Our company, some of our founders have been in the business for over 30 years. Thomas Bottenberg, you see here, who is not on the call today. But we are experts in the 1031 exchange industry, and we have partnered here with USA Land Group to talk about some options for in the process. Now, one of the things we wanted to go over, to sort of bust the myth that in the exchange process, that you like kind is one of the terms that's thrown around, which means you have to exchange a condominium. If you're doing a 1031 exchange, you have to exchange it for another condominium because it counts as like kind, which is not the case. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually exchange into raw land, and that's why we saw USA Land Group and teamed up with Todd, because a lot of people don't know about this option. And we thought this is kind of a unique replacement option for 1031 exchangers. Real quick, just first, those that don't know 1031 or the exact mechanics of it, I'm just going to do a quick overview here on the process before we hand it over to Connor and Todd. So again, this is just about institutional 1031. The experience, security, we have maximum fund security. We can insure your exchange funds with full visibility up to $100 million on FDIC insurance, which is not every 1031 exchange company has that capability. Our expertise, we follow all the IRS deadlines and guidelines, and we've facilitated our group over the 30 years, have exchanged probably billions in the 1031 in exchanges. And we do really have experts on our staff that know all the ins and outs of, just from the most simple to the most complex exchanges here. So what is a 1031 exchange? Tax-deferred exchange allows investors to reinvest proceeds from an investment property into a like-kind new property. So going back to what I said earlier, like-kind means held for investment use. So that doesn't mean if you own a gas station or you own a hotel or you own a condo, then it has to be exchanged for that. So that is one of the myths. Again, we're here to like show you that there's other options for that. So this is just a tool. Exchanges are a tool to really, maximize your gain on any of the properties or property that you sell, to reinvest it ultimately and start accumulating wealth. Again, we follow the IRS guidelines, which we'll get to in a second. Again, it really allows the average person to really build a real estate portfolio. Um, and you defer that tax and you put that tax deferral to work for you to, again, ultimately build your wealth and assets and for your family and for your legacy. Let's see. So the basics of how it works. First thing you're going to do is you're going to sell your relinquished property. Um, you have 45 days from the time that you enter into that sale to identify a replacement property. Now, that's where USA Land Group and Todd are going to come in after that. So when you have that 45 days, you have to identify what you're going to replace that with, whether it's one property, three properties. You have to replace all that gain to do a 1031 exchange. When you enter into that, we hold the funds. During that 45 days, the replacement property is identified, held in writing with us. And while you're identifying, and then after that period of the 45 days, you have 180 days to close on that relinquished property or properties. So you do have a strict timeline here. And that's where it can sometimes get tricky because you're under the gun. You need to be able to find this replacement property and close on that replacement property in 180 days or the exchange fails. And there's a lot of nuances with that, which would be a whole different webinar, but we do have experts on, how we minimize that exposure and how we help you or we help you with partners to be able to adhere to that timeline. So that's just the basics of the 1031. I think most of the people on this webinar probably know the basics. Again, we can get into it more. We're always available to talk to you and answer any questions, which we'll have questions and answers after this as well. But that's just the basic outline of a regular forward exchange. So that's it for now on our end. Really, the beauty of this webinar is this the replacement property solutions for the 1031 exchange here, and that's why we brought in USA Land Group to go over their expertise in this really unique and kind of exciting, replacement property option. So I'm going to hand it over to Todd and Connor. And again, if there's more questions along the way or after, however you guys want to do it, we'll answer some on what we can for you and as the webinar goes. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bobby. And thanks everybody for joining. Todd Schweber. My window says Connor because I was having some technical difficulties. So if you like what you see here today, it was Todd who gave the presentation. And if you hate it, it was definitely Connor. Email him and let him know. Let him know your thoughts. Now Connor's over here, and he'll be jumping in and out as well. Thanks again for jumping on. I see a lot of familiar faces, and hope to add some clarity and create some dialogue around not just 1031 exchanges, but how we see it from a land company's perspective. Before we start jumping into replacement properties, though, maybe just a quick about us. Bobby, if you want to just go to the next slide. We've been around the block for a little bit now. USA Land Group itself is built on more than 20 plus years of experience working at the crossroads of capital and real estate, specifically land. We've seen land from almost every angle at this point, as an operating asset, as a financial asset, as infrastructure. Our core focus is in buying or acquiring large parent tracts of land and putting them through a process that makes them more usable and consumable for a broad set of buyers. And I'll get into a little bit more around that as the presentation goes on, but it includes everybody from mom and pop investors to builders to developers and institutions and increasingly 1031 exchangers. On our team, we operate with an in-house team here in Richmond, Virginia, of roughly 12, 13 people. Beyond that, we have a very broad network of thousands of I would say top-notch in-market partners, we'll call them, intermediaries, brokers, agents nationwide who support our transactions and coverage in every major market in the US. That business is something that came about, this business, I should say, is something that came about from its origins 2015, 2016, where we were running oil and gas acquisitions and leasing programs. That business focused on subsurface real estate at the time, mineral rights, some of you may be aware of, which really acted as our MBA and land, at least from the acquisitions and disposition side of things. It taught us a lot about the complexities and ownership levels. We took our systems, which were very marketing and digital heavy, to market through a marketing agency that we launched called getlandleads.com, which again was a marketing platform helping anyone who wanted to acquire land connected assets reach property owners directly. So we really worked with, again, some of the biggest and best brokerage houses and agents and private equity firms, funds, et cetera, who were out there looking to purchase land. We helped them get into those homes and connect with sellers and owners. Around 2019, we internalized that marketing platform and all of the infrastructure and launched USA Land Group, where we started acquiring our own assets. A few years ago, we formed USA Land Fund One, which is our private equity arm, and has really helped us scale to a national acquisition strategy. And today we're deploying anywhere from 25 to 35 million a year into these land assets that fit our thesis, taking those underutilized and unusable larger tracts of land and converting them into more, again, consumable and usable properties. Currently, we have, give or take on, depending on what time of the day, roughly 150 active projects nationwide. Those range from, what we would consider to be smaller parcels of land, market value of 50,000, to larger institutional scale tracts exceeding 20, 25 million of market value. Our core beliefs is simple, really. When land is structured correctly, it becomes a tool that solves real market problems. That belief is what led us naturally into the 1031 exchange space. Bobby, if you want to go to slide number 3, we can kind of start talking about that land. That way you have a sense of, if you're not familiar with us, the type of assets we deal in. And I want to be very clear. I'm not showing you this to talk about scale as much as to really give you a sense of the flexibility around the different properties that come out of USA Land Group, because flexibility really is the name of the game and what we're talking about here today. So we work with a wide range of land types, from large parent tracts to small buildable parcels. That variety is intentional. It's been part of our model since day one. It allows us to structure land in a way that fits many different buyer and exchange scenarios. A couple of different case studies or types of land that you'll find throughout our portfolio at any given time are timber tracts, which are definitely not the majority, but if we see upside potential, we will certainly underwrite and acquire if it makes sense. An example of that is what's on the screen here right now. Over 1,200 acres in Alabama. You can see some of the characteristics outlined here, and what this specific property represents is that there are investors, buyers, and exchangers out there who ultimately are looking for some type of an ag play. Timber makes a lot of sense, specifically in certain parts of the country, and we have access to those type of assets from a whole site, 1,200 acre perspective, all the way down to subdivided tracts in the hundreds or under. Bobby, you can go to the next slide, which will showcase residential and mixed use. This particular property is in Horry County, South Carolina. If anybody's familiar with Myrtle Beach, not too far away. It's certainly a market that we know and love, and it's tied to residential and future development opportunities, which you'll find the majority of what we act on over here. It has some type of residential feasibility. Again, we're not going to turn down a good timber tract or rec tract, but for the most part, with the cycle we're in right now, housing is certainly the majority of assets that we're going after, or at some point feasible for housing. You can go over to the next slide, Bobby. A third example would be a recreational tract, which we certainly see a lot of opportunity in. This particular property is out in Jefferson County, Oklahoma. Again, purchased 958 acres. You can see kind of the plat map in front of you that showcases how we went about subdividing, and we offer a full package to buyers and exchangers, or a scaled down version of the full package in 40 or 80 acre tracts for hunters and outdoorsmen and otherwise recreational users. At any point in our portfolio, you'll be able to find some type of variation of any or all of these types of properties throughout. So scale and range. Again, we're active in all 50 states from a marketing and acquisition interest perspective. We have over 150 projects really at any given time. We're constantly selling these tracts as well as buying new. And that translates into replacement options ranging from, on the low end, 50,000, sometimes under, but we like to say the base is typically 50,000, all the way up to 20+ million. The reason this matters is not what the land is, it's really what the land allows us to solve. And Bobby, if you go to the next slide, the problem or the bottleneck as we see it is kind of what we'll get into next. And before I start talking about solutions, it's really important to call out what works as we see it from 1031, the 1031 space. 1031s aren't broken. They, in my opinion, they remain one of the most effective tools in real estate for deferring capital gains and preserving wealth. The rules are pretty clear, and Bobby and his team are great resources.
Yes.
For anybody who's initiating these types of transactions. They're going to be the guys who say, like, here are the rules and the compliance and everything else that goes behind it through the transaction. The structure is proven, and there's a whole hell of a lot of them used every single year. Where we consistently see the friction, again, from our desk, is not the compliance side of things. Again, that's Bobby is going to be more.
That's our job. Yep.
Yeah. I try not to make Bobby's life miserable, but
no.
It's the replacement property availability and flexibility. That issue becomes magnified really inside of the 45-day identification window that Bobby explained earlier in his deck. what we see time and time again is that exchangers being forced to make decisions under pressure, not because they want to, but because the clock is ticking and the inventory, the replacement property inventory just doesn't line up cleanly. That's when people stop choosing the right fit and start trying to make something work. And I'm sure we can all of us can think of a time when that we've been in that position, whether with an exchange or otherwise, and it's never a good position to be in, especially when you're talking about legacy and preserving wealth. I think our perspective comes from operating directly inside, this part of the market, the replacement property market. We see what's available and what's not, and where deals are actually breaking down. That perspective, that vantage point, shapes how we think about the solutions. Bobby, you can go to the next slide. So once you understand where the bottleneck really is, the conversation shifts from the tax rules to flexibility. And this is kind of where we see the exchanges get a little uncomfortable. Most exchanges don't include or involve clean round numbers. In a perfect world, somebody's selling a piece of land, it's all cash, and they're able to roll right into another piece of land, and there's very little math to be done, but that's just not the reality of the space or life, right? These transactions involve partial proceeds or mixed strategies or very specific timing needs. Traditional replacement options tend to come in fixed sizes, but they're often much larger than needed, slow to transact, or structured in ways that just don't adapt well. And that creates a gap between what an exchanger might need to place and what's actually available. So it's, I have this money and these are the properties, and I have this capital to roll. So as the identification window progresses, that gap turns into pressure. And again, that's where we see a lot of rushing and poor decisions being made. Bobby, you can go to the next one. So flexibility really is the answer from where we sit whenever it comes to replacement properties. USA Land Group exists specifically to buy and sell land, to make it more consumable, to operate underneath a conservation basis. And we fit really well into the 1031 exchange ecosystem because we solve that imbalance from having such a flexible array of properties, shapes, sizes, entry points, exit points, et cetera. We don't ask exchangers to really fit into a product. We provide replacement property that can be sized and structured to fit the exchange itself. And I don't know too many other direct 1031 options that are out there that offer that type of flexibility.
Todd, would you
Yeah.
say for the exchangers out there, since this is sort of new for everyone, for the land, is it a quicker scenario? Like let's say they want raw land. Like, yeah, I like that. I like this idea. And they've got to replace, let's say it's 250K from their exchange they're exchanging into. What's the timing like? Is this like a good option just because that time you have so much inventory, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk
Yeah.
probably timing wise. Connor's typically really hands on with the transactions or curating the exchange or the replacement property. So he's hands on with the timelines.
Yeah. I think part of the advantage is that we have, all the due diligence on these properties we've already done, which not only expedites us knowing our portfolio and knowing what we can provide, but also providing the due diligence to a potential buyer. So, somebody comes to us and says, we have, $347,000, right, that we need to place somewhere.
Yeah.
We can say, well, here are the, you know, 3 or 4 properties or singular property, depending on
Yeah.
where they want to be. And here are the properties that we think you should go into. Here's why. Here are the diligence packets for them, right? They've done perk testing, all right. Here's where
Yeah.
there's power item. There's, you know, here's the full diligence packet. And
Yeah.
so, you know, if you go to buy an apartment building, you're trying to figure out vacancy rates and rent rolls and, you know,
Yeah.
things like that, utilities and all that. This is simple. It's clean and like Todd said, you know, between 50,000 and 20 million, we
Yeah.
can pretty much customize down to the dollar a portfolio that puts, you know, and put exchangers into properties at, you know, 85 to 95% of market value, you know, get in below market value, and deliver full diligence packets with that. So, yeah, I think speed for sure. It's a
Yeah.
matter of, you know, days, not weeks or months for us to be able to say, here's where you should go and here's all the information you need to make that decision.
Yeah. I mean, it does look way cleaner. And like you said, if you're buying an apartment building or a gas station, you got to figure out all these different, you know, nuances with it, rent rolls and repairs. And you're
Yeah,
like, this is just looks clean and simple. I mean, you know, for everyone out there, that's been the biggest obstacle in 1031, you know, that I've seen last few years. It's, you know, it's just replace. It's like that timeline crunch, and you know, oh, I want to buy this condo in Maui, and you got to figure out all this other,
right.
you know, just like we just mentioned, just you know, repairs and rent rolls, and this looks like a clean, nice option, even if you're going to do it for. And I wanted to ask you this, and forgive me, but you know, again, hold periods. Do you have those? I mean, someone can, let's say they just want to do it for a couple of years and see if the land appreciates and then, you know, maybe do another one or
Yeah.
there's another option. Like, are there hold periods with you guys? I kind of apologies. Wasn't totally
No,
sure.
no. So, you know, the whole period is dependent on the buyer, right? It's a fee simple closing. They own the land. And so as long as they want to hold it, they can hold it. I
Okay.
think one of the advantages is these markets that we really like. And, you know, as Todd mentioned, we truly are nationwide. But of course, we've got markets that we know and love too. You know, the Charlotte market we love, the Warren County he mentioned earlier, we know and love, you know, Georgia, we really know and love. And so a lot of the markets that we're in today are markets we're going to be in tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We're not day traders, right? We find really strong markets that we like being in, and we're going to be in those markets. And so having a relationship with an exchanger that comes in and buys some of this land,
Yeah.
then, you know, in 2 years, you know, we're probably still in the market and we can say, hey, you know, this market's experienced a lot of appreciation in the last, you
Yeah.
know, 5, 6, 7 years. We think the appreciation may slow down here. So you know, maybe we're reallocating capital to another market and happy to bring the exchanger with us to that new market, or say, you know, this is what we're doing. So just a heads
No, I
up.
love it. And you know, there's that old saying where it's, you know, they're not making any more land. So it's,
Right.
it's just such a cool option, you know, again, and again, I want to reemphasize everyone that, you know, this is, you do not have, like kind is so misunderstood. This is a like kind. It's just a held for investment use. That's the threshold. That's the IRS rule. So you sold a hotel or a gas station or a strip mall, or like you said, like a condo, you can exchange into this. I just want to reemphasize that.
Yeah, thanks.
Exchange into it. We act as a great backup, you know, as Bobby can attest to. Exchanges fall through all the time. You know, you think you have a certain amount of money, and somewhere along the line, you realize you have less than originally expected, and the asset that was in line to be purchased or the replacement property no longer makes sense. The time is still clicking against you, and so having backup could certainly save a deal. We act as a gap fill for imbalance transactions where, you know, you're going into that condo in Maui, but you still have a couple $100,000 left over afterwards, and need a place to put it.
Yeah.
And so we do fill gaps. There's you can go to the next slide, Bobby. We probably, you know, we're probably right on track, but covered some of the stuff on these next couple of slides. Um, specifically around how we're being used or
Yeah.
how exchangers are using the properties. Again, we've gone over the range of sizes, which matter because these exchanges rarely come in a perfect size. This allows exchangers to build the replacement solutions that,
Yeah. Yeah.
match their situation.
Um,
You can go one more. There you
one
go.
more.
Yeah.
There we go.
Common, go back one more.
Okay.
Thanks, dude. So common use cases, and this is where we were going with the backup replacement property, partial replacement, or primary. There's a lot of people who, to your point, Bobby, they know the value of land, and instead of going into some security that they have zero control over, long lockup periods, etc. They like to know that that piece of dirt is there, it's theirs, and it's up to them to be in it as long as they'd like. We will
Yeah.
always be a partner if there's any questions around the market or the asset itself. We never sit as any type of partner, like technically a partner on any of these assets. But as a year goes by, a couple years go by, our phones certainly ring and say, "Hey, what are you guys seeing over there? Because I'm thinking about getting out of this. I found, the property of my dreams and it's across the street from my house. What are you
Yeah.
seeing? What should I list it at? Do you have any buyers?" A lot of times we have buyers who are looking for that piece of property that exchanger has been in for a couple of years, so we can help. Um,
Yeah. It's a
uh,
neat niche ecosystem that you guys have created for the
Good.
exchanger.
It's a
It
healthy
really is
network for
cool
sure.
because there's so many products out there, DSTs and other things, and it's like it's just so unique. And again, we're just trying to get the word out there for people that this exists and that's viable, and it's a really attractive option.
So the execution does matter. And again, we kind of covered some of this, but uh, all of the properties are real property. And again, not securities. You'll if you're in the 1031 space, you'll hear of other offerings that have long lockups. You can't get in unless you're an accredited investor, et cetera. These are ready for as close to immediate action as possible. We do work very closely, coordinate closely with qualified intermediaries like Bobby and institutional 1031 to keep everything as clean and straightforward as possible. There's no extra layers, and there's no, in my opinion, unnecessary complexity. Land introduces control, the flexibility and optionality into the exchange process, again, from where we sit. And that flexibility doesn't just benefit, the exchanger.
Mhm.
It really does benefit everybody involved in the transaction. Um,
Yes. Um,
you can go to the next one. So,
there we
so why
go.
do why does the market participants, why do they like where we're at? This is one of our nearest and dearest, Scott Jackson, and he runs a big wealth group. These guys, our market partners, in-market partners, such as qualified intermediaries like Bobby, I think appreciate the solutions that simplify their life, right? If it's clean, real property replacements, that reduces a lot of last-minute stress. The backup model, where we're providing properties to be identified for backup purposes, can really reduce the fail rate on these exchanges. Coordination stays straightforward, and there's no extra layers that are going to keep anybody up at night. When the exchange is easier, everyone wins. The advisors of the world, your RIAs and wealth managers, land provides a non-security replacement option for clients. That matters
Yeah.
for non-accredited investors and smaller exchanges. So, like I was saying earlier, there are security offerings out there, but they limit who can come into those. You have to be a high net worth accredited investor.
Yes.
A whole set of rules around that, right, Bobby? You gotta be worth a
Yeah.
certain amount of money. You have to make a certain amount of money. And what we find is, half the time, even if you are an accredited investor, you don't know that, or you don't have an advisor or tax accountant who's going to add up all your assets and send a letter and sign off. It's a lot of extra work, and it's limiting. Those exchanges often come with a minimum exchange amount, sometimes as high as $300,000 to $500,000.
Yeah.
So again, flexibility matters, right? Um,
I think that's definitely one of the biggest benefits I see here. And like you said, the cleanness of the transaction. If someone wants, they're under the gun for the timeline and they're super confused, like you can really never go wrong with the raw land. You don't have to do much after the due diligence package, like Connor said. I think, let's see, is there, oh, okay. We got one more slide for you
One
guys
more
here.
slide, and just because I know that there's a lot of these people on the phone, and we see, we consider this market segment, market participant segment, as probably our nearest and dearest. And that's the brokers and the agents of the world we work with. And again, we consider partners out in the field. For brokers and agents, this approach really does keep deals alive. When a client has already sold and replaced, like replacement options have fallen apart, having the flexibility changes that outcome, right? It saves the deal. It allows brokers to deliver value beyond just listing inventory. And we're always one call away with, like I said, hundreds of options for 1031 exchangers that may be coming to an agent or broker for their needs. It does turn a potential problem into almost a relationship builder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love
final
it.
slide is the next one. And if I could just, leave you with one simple idea, it's that, 1031 exchanges, although very important, are not just about rules and deadlines. They're about decision making under tight timelines and
Yes.
pressure. Flexible replacement properties give exchangers breathing room, and that breathing room is often the difference between feeling super rushed and feeling in control. So land doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can serve as a primary replacement, a partial solution, backup, fill a gap. What matters most is having that flexibility and having
Mhm.
those options. Um,
Exactly. Um, I don't think we have any questions, which is interesting. That must have been, we did a really good job, right?
or I put
Um,
everybody to sleep, one or the other.
yeah, maybe that. Yeah. Again, want to thank everyone for coming today. The best thing to do is, take away. We can also send the recording to everyone, especially people that couldn't make it, or even the people that did that want to refer to it. But, just reach out. I think we provided all of our contact information on both sides. Please call if you have any questions, concerns, anything. Again, Todd and USA Land Group and Connor, they're really the only people that I've met along the way that have this little niche, which is cool. And then if you have any questions about exchanges in general or the process, if you qualify, et cetera, I'm always available to answer. Anyone on our team. Our website, institutional1031.com has tutorials, downloads, I think, or mostly videos. We have a LinkedIn page. I know Todd and them have a really nice, robust LinkedIn page as well with marketing, and you can get a hold of us very easily. So this day and age, we got multiple mediums you can connect with us on, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
We'll share this recording with you all as well,
Yeah,
just in case you had some teammates that couldn't make it.
excellent. All right, I think that's it.
That's it. That's
All
it from
right,
our side.
everyone.
Thanks again.
Hey, appreciate it. Take care.